Next is about Mirza Ghalib. Let's see who is Mirza Ghalib. Mirza Ghalib, Ghalib. Mirza Ghalib. Okay, children? We see Mirza Ghalib's real name was Mirza Asadullah Beg Khan. Who is him? His real name is Mirza Asadullah Beg Khan. He is considered to be the most famous poet of Urdu language in India. He is a famous poet, but poet in which language? He used to write poems in Urdu language. In Urdu language. Okay, he is a great poet in Urdu language in India. He was born in 1797 in the city of Agra, in Delhi, isn't it? He became a poet at the age of 11 when he was very young. 11 means very small he was, isn't it? That time he became a poet. Great, isn't it, children? Yes. He later served as a poet and a royal historian in the court of Mughal king Bahadur Shah Zafar. Afterwards, he became a poet, a great poet, were in the court of Mughal king. Who was the Mughal king that time? Bahadur Shah Zafar. And a royal historian. Royal historian means the person who studies about the past, about the history. So he was a royal historian also, were in the court of Mughal king Bahadur Shah Zafar. Then many of his poems have been composed as ghazals. Ghazals, okay, many of his poems was composed as ghazal. Ghazal means it's a kind of poem actually, children, ghazal form. Okay, many of his poems have been composed as ghazals. He also wrote letters that became famous and his work popularized in the Urdu language. He also wrote letters, it became famous, and also his work is more famous in which language? Urdu language, because he was the famous poet in Urdu language. Ghalib has inspired generations of Urdu poets. So many Urdu poets were influenced by the quality of his work. They got inspired by his work. Institutes like Ivan-e Ghalib in Delhi has been set up to honor his work. So to honor his work, to give respect to his all the work that he has done, there is an institute in Delhi. They set up an institute in Delhi called Ivan-e Ghalib, only to honor his works. Okay, so Mirza Ghalib's real name was Mirza Asadullah Beg Khan. He was a famous poet in Urdu language. He became a poet at the age of 11 itself, when he was so small. Then later he served as a great poet and also a royal historian. Were in the Mughal in the court of Mughal king Bahadur Shah Zafar. Then his poems have been composed as ghazals. Next is about Chanakya. Chanakya. Let's see who is Chanakya. Chanakya was an advisor of Emperor Chandragupta Maurya 2300 years ago. He was an advisor to the king Chandragupta Maurya. He helped him rise to power through his advice and trained him on how to rule a kingdom. During those days when kings were ruling, always there will be an advisor or a minister, we say like a what we say helper or minister, to advise the king to give solution to the king when war comes, or if any problem arises in the kingdom or in the country where he rules. If any problem is there, this minister will be there to guide them in the right path, or to give solutions, to advise. So here Chanakya was like that. He was an advisor to the emperor, the king Chandragupta Maurya, and he helped him rise to power through his advice, and he used to train the king how to rule the country or rule the kingdom. He taught at the University of Taxila and authored important works, Arthashastra and Niti Shastra. Arthashastra and Niti Shastra. Arthashastra discusses how money should be utilized. Okay, so he studied everything in the University of Taxila, and there he has written two main important work called Artha Shastra and Niti Shastra. These are the main two works, Artha Shastra. So what is Arthashastra actually? Arthashastra discusses about how money should be utilized, as well as about foreign relations and war strategies. In this book he has written about the money, whatever money we are earning, how to utilize it, how to spend it, and also about the relations, foreign relations and war strategies, or the plan of the war. Everything he has written in Arthashastra. And his second work is Niti Shastra. It talks about the ideal Indian way of life, the perfect way, Indians, how they should live, an ideal way, the standard Indian way of life, Niti Shastra. In that book Niti Shastra, he has mentioned about the ideal Indian way of life. And in Arthashastra he discussed about the how to utilize the money, and about the foreign relations, and also about the plans of war or war strategies, how to conduct a war. In war, what all things we should take care of. Everything he has explained in Arthashastra. But in Niti Shastra he talks about the perfect way of Indian life. Okay, the Indian way of life. So these are the two famous work of Chanakya. He was the advisor of the king Chandragupta Maurya. Okay. So here we learned about again two great persons who lived in India. Mirza Ghalib. His real name was Mirza Asadullah Beg Khan, and he was a great or famous poet in Urdu language, and he born in the city of Agra. He became a poet at the age of 11 itself, but later he served as poet and a royal historian in the Mughal court, in the king court of Mughal Bahadur Shah Safar. Then many of his poems were composed as ghazals, a kind of poem only. Ghazal means. Then his work was inspired by many Urdu poets, and they set up an institution called Iwan-e Ghalib in Delhi to honor his work. Next comes Chanakya, and he was an advisor of the king Chandragupta Maurya, and he studied or he taught at University of Taxila, and his famous work was Arthashastra and Niti Shastra, and in both the books he discussed about many things. In Arthashastra he discussed about how we should utilize the money properly, and about the foreign relations, and about war strategies. And in Niti Shastra he explained about, or he talks about the perfect, or what we say, the ideal Indian way of life. Okay.